Howdy everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to do dynamic hole control. I went ahead and created a bar and I put some iLogic to this and I make it so I'm able to move the length of the bar, change the spacing of the holes itself, and also the diameter of this. So we're going to do this today. Let me show you how we did this. Let's start with a clean slate. Normally I don't start with a clean slate, but you'll see why we do it today. Start with a sketch. Just do a rectangle. And this time we're going to put our parameters in to start with. So we're going to do width. And let's make it 1.5. There it goes. Height, let's do 25, but we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do height. Okay, and finish the sketch. Okay, we're done with that. Let's do extrusion. Let's go the opposite direction. Let's do 8 for now. And there's our bar. You'll see why I did it in this direction. Let's go ahead and go into parameters. You can see that I started these early, but you can come in and change these later. I like to do this so if I do open up this, I can see where I am and I don't have to guess what number was what. So let's do length for this. Okay. From here, let's go ahead and do our parameters for our length. So I'm going to do a projection. That's so I have a nice solid piece to attach onto for our lines. And I'm going to do 2 shorts and 1 long. For this, I'm going to window the whole thing and hit construction. Now, I want these two to be equal, so I'm going to hold this down. I'm going to pick this and hold down my control key, pick that one, and it equals. So now I only have to use one parameter. And I'm going to call this offset. And I'm going to give it 0.5. Now I need a dimension on this, and you'll see what happens here. So I'm going to pick on this. You'll see it's 7, but the minute I pick, it's going to say that it's a driven dimension. I'm going to say OK to that and accept it. It'll have it in brackets, or parentheses that is, and I want to be able to control that later, and I'll show you why. So we are going to add a point. We only need 1, and we're going to close that and finish our sketch. So we have this much. Let's go ahead and add our hole. Now I want to have the hole actually also a parameter, so I'm going to call it hole and make that to where I can find it later. So we're set up on that. So let's go into our parameters and do some adjustments. Now you'll see the reference that we did that's 7 inches. I want to change this name, and you'll see why also. Array length. Now, these parameters have to have no spaces. They can't have spaces. You have to have it all one word, so underscore and whatnot. But I like to do it this way. It makes it a little easier to read. I have the first letter of the word and capitalized, and the rest is lowercase. So let's say OK to that. Now I want to add one other parameter while I'm here, and I'm going to do add numeric. Down here, this is a user parameter, so this one will actually be whole quantity. I just put whole Q, good enough. I'm going to tab over, and in this you'll see unit and type. Now for this particular parameter, it needs to be unitless. Instead of looking through this entire list to find that, if you know where it is, great. But just type UL and you'll already cut to the chase. So there we have that. And we're going to say OK. And now we're going to do our array. And you'll see why I call it those names. So let's do the array. This dialog box will look a little different because I'm in version 2026, but this function works exactly the same in the rest. 20, 24, 25, doesn't matter, 23 even. It's just the dialog is a little bit more consolidated on this. That's what they changed. So we're going to pick our feature. We're going to look at direction. We're going to pick on the edge. You'll see the arrow go in that direction. And here is where I want to change this. So I want it to go the length of what we're going to do. So we're going to pick this, but now we have number. So we're going to go up and do user parameters that if it didn't show. You're going to come up and it'll give you a list here. So I see array length. So we're going to pick that. You're going to see if it comes up with this error, then you have it backwards. I've done this a million times. So we're going to go back here and we're going to pick our selection again. And this is whole quantity. So we're going to pick that. And unfortunately, it filled in both at the same time. So let's get rid of that. So there's our little marker saying we had it wrong. And then we're going to go array length. So you'll see exactly what happened here. So now it is taking that array length, which was the reference, and spacing it evenly across that particular one. Say OK to that. Let's back up a little bit. And now we're going to go in to do some iLogic. If you don't see the dialog box there, all you do is pick on the plus sign. If it's not showing, it's in this list. But since we already had it up, we're going to go forms, we're going to right click, and we're going to add form. And this is where I made a mistake. Now you see all these extra things in here. We don't want to see all that. We only want to see what we want to see. So we're going to cancel all of that, go back to our parameters, and you see this thing over here that says key. This is what we want to only see in that list. So you find, here's length. We're going to put a check mark there. Here's whole, and this is why we name those. They're just easier to find. And then we're going to do what? Array length? Actually, let's just do those two right now, and we'll come back to that. So let's say OK to that. All right. So now we're going to go back, and we're going to make our form. In here, you'll see only the ones that I have checked. That's what we want to see. Here's the name of the form, but this is where, here's label, so there can be anything, spaces, it doesn't matter. The inventor name, that is the one that's restricted. So we're going to pick on this, backspace over there, dynamic whole control, hit enter, and it populates our dialog. This is over here is what we're creating, so you'll see our results. So now what we want is we want to drag length over there, just drag and drop. When it's selected, you'll see it's up here. Now I want to change its characteristics in. Now its behavior is down here. I'm going to pick on it, you'll see a down arrow key, and you'll see a slider, and that's what I wanted. This turns into a slider. So right now, we did 8, but this parameter down here for max says 10, so that's why you see this extra here. If I accepted it right now as it was, it would be 10. So I'm actually going to make this 15. The minimum distance on that, we're going to leave it at 1, and then we're going to do increments. Now you see the tick marks? If you do like 0.25, they'll get smaller. So that's the increments of the slider. Let's say OK to that. So let's zoom back. Now we pick on the control, and this is what we get. Because at the 15, if you type in another number like 20, it will go there. But the minute you grab this again, it'll go back to what you already had preset inside the dialog box. So let's just leave it at that for now. Now I want to do a little bit more with this. So let's go back into our parameters. And this is where we put that whole queue. You'll see this is red. That means there's an error on this. So we're going to have to update this with some iLogic code. Code is interesting. I'm not a coder. It really drives me crazy to try to figure out all these things. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to place that into the description of the video so you can cut and paste so you can see how to arrange it or modify it if you want. So let's go ahead and do this. You have to start with ceil, which stands for ceiling. There's a ceiling and a bottom. So you have to do these particular parameters. I'm going to add that. And we're going to do isolate. Add another one. Here's where you have to be exact. Whatever the reference, because this is how it's going to be controlled, whatever this name is, you have to put it in exact, capitalized, lowercase, everything, exactly the same. So let's do that. Okay, space, we're going to add bracket. Now I'm going to, I want the spacing to be 2, so let's do 2 inches on that. And now, as we're adding a semicolon, a UL, semicolon, UL, you'll see it turn black, so that means the parameter is right. But you will still want to close it out. Say OK to that. And now you'll see it actually populated based on how many holes we set in the spacing on that. So if I go up to my control, let's pull this down a little bit and grab this, the holes will actually update with the length. Let's add that a little bit more to that. Now let's go back into here. We're going to grab our hole command, drag that in, and we're going to do a slider for that as well. So behaviors, down for slide, and you'll see it say 25. It populated there, but we're going to change this. So we started at 25, so let's just leave that there. We don't want it to make any bigger than 1 inch. And then steps, let's do 25 for our steps. You'll see the tick marks in there. Say OK. Let's close that out. And now let's zoom in and actually do the control. You'll see that increments 25. Now, obviously, you can go beyond that, so it'll end up doing this. So that means your spacing should be a little different. So let's control this one more time. Let's go back into our parameters. We want, this is 2 inches, and that's what this is. But we want to control that 2 inches. So let's go add one more. Let's go in here and do, let's just call it space. We have that. That does not need to be, you know, it's just this. But here's where this is controlling this. So we're going to replace the 2, and I did a capital, so space. But I have to add a semicolon in the front of that. Oops, actually all I need to do is get rid of that extra semicolon. I mean the UL. So it's space, semicolon UL, semicolon UL, and close brackets. So now you can see it works there. And we'll see what parameters we have. But we have to add that parameter. Okay, so we have these, but we need one more. So let's go back since we created that. And what we forgot to do, or I forgot to do obviously, I need to have my check mark. Let's do the check so that shows up. Go back in here. Oh, sorry, wrong place. All right. Edit. There's our space. Let's drag that here. That's highlighted. Add a slider again. And for this, we'll leave it at 1, 5, and let's do increments of 125. Say OK. Open up. Now, we actually are controlling the space in between. We can control the length and the diameter of the holes. So we have complete autonomy over this design based with just a little bit of code. This code in here, and this is driving that number. And the length is actually, the array length is our reference, and the length of the bar itself is set up here on this parameter under length. So if you have any questions, go ahead and write to me. If you have any suggestions, that'd be great. I'll put the code in there so you don't have to retype that, and you'll know exactly the verbiage I used. I hope this helped. I'll see you at the next video. Thank you.